Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. As usual, I am Keith Riddle here with my co-host today, Jordan Tampien.
It's good to be here.
It's good to be here. We've done a few of these little Q&A things, but what is new in Jordan's world?
Yeah, it's hard to space all these out. My world turns at a pretty fast rate. One of the big ones was working on getting Brick West, kind of new ownership group in there. I'll let the new owners tell if they want to. Leave it up to them. But it was really great. Worked with Numerica, got that one kind of settled up. We're going down every property, doing the same thing. The rates kind of coming down have helped a bunch of the projects. And so, no, it's my world's a bunch of kind of clean up, make right still. It's just now you're seeing some momentum build behind a few of them. So it's been pretty fun to watch it come to fruition. But I think it got a lot more fanfare than I thought it should have or would have.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing. So I don't know. I feel like in everything in life, and all I'm learning from this podcast is everybody has those moments where you learn and build from it. But I don't know. In our world, we're seeing kind of that we have a couple really good projects we'll get building, but kind of going to slow the pace down and really kind of target some stuff. So it should be a very interesting next 5 years, actually, from how we approach it and what that.
I feel like I'm getting that vibe from almost everybody in the development world or the business world of like, hey, we're all still in it and we're all moving forward, but we're all kind of doing it at a little bit more cautious or slower pace, or maybe just not even like steady pace would be the right word. I mean, the world just got so fast there for a while.
It is, and so then you felt like slowing down a little. You're slowing down. You're like, no, we're still going 5 times the pace.
Yeah.
Even when you're slowing down, and I think we saw that across every business, every part. And so a lot of it is what does that next 5 years look like? And I think it's going to be an interesting next 5 years. But where the businesses have really taken off is it's allowed us. There was times where we were growing so fast that it was like, all right, just hire and plug these spots. Yeah. And then we kind of got big enough, and we're like, wait a second, what do we have that? What are we doing there? We're spending way too much money on this. We're spending way too much money on this. Certain gaps that we just didn't learn because we were moving so fast. And I think maybe in my side, but I think it's across the board. Like I think most businesses are seeing some form of that, unless you're an AI tech or some version of that that's on the fringe of one of these. But if you're a service-related one, if you're a realtor, if you're a broker, I mean, your business is slower.
Yeah.
And I think that's across the board.
Well, it forces you to kind of look at your business and get efficient.
Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses right now, whether you are a restaurant or whether you are like a local, any spot, you're asking yourself like, what's the bare minimum or minimum viable product I need to get out the door, and really kind of controlling costs and looking at expenses and saying like, how do I survive? But not only that, but like, how do I thrive? Like, the market's shifted or the economy has shifted. Bringing rates into the conversation. The Fed just met yesterday, day before, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, and they did bring rates down about a quarter of a point. Most of that was already baked into the market, though. You're not going to see mortgage rates necessarily drop. They kind of forecasted that, and so the rates have already come down. But what I did listen to the other day was a gentleman kind of breaking down the economy, saying the nice thing about it is it doesn't seem like rates will go back up much.
Yeah.
Right? So while we might still all want this huge drop, or we might want rates to keep coming down, which they speculate there could be another 2 or 3 drops this year, probably small, 1/8 or 1/4 point, if at all. But it doesn't seem like they'll necessarily go back up. In other words, it seems like the Fed's kind of got inflation in control.
Yeah.
Or about where they want it to be. And you might see a little fluctuation with the markets as far as like where jobs are at and where the economy's at and where inflation's at. And I think the tariffs are still a little bit of a question as far as the impact. But overall, it seems like the ability for the Fed to keep jacking around with the rate is kind of like, or not the ability, but their likelihood has diminished.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, so this is the new normal. And now we might come down a little bit. We might bob around here, but it doesn't seem like we're going back towards the 7s as far as rates are concerned, or the 8s. So it's like, okay, well, now we just have to adjust to the new normal. But I think I'm feeling that across the entire economy with business owners and entrepreneurs and whoever. People are like, okay, it is what it is. This is the amount of people that are going to come into my restaurant now. Or this is the amount of people that are going to like frequent my shop now. So now I have to go, okay, can I stay in business? Like, does this make sense to do this anymore? And if it does, well, then what does it have to look like so that I can still run a successful or profitable business with this new normal in place? And I think that's what like a lot of the consumers want to see. I think that's what a lot of people want to see is just like normality.
Yeah.
Right. Stop the volatility.
Predictability.
Yeah.
100%. Well, and it's funny because we forget like what's the mission of the Fed? I mean, in theory, right? It's supposed to be. It's not about interest rates. That's a tool to control inflation and unemployment.
Yeah.
So they don't care if my house value plummets because I couldn't get the refi, right? What they're using is the rates. And so the reason you drop the rates is because you actually see the economy headed that way.
Yeah.
And I think results, I bet we're in the middle of one. So a recession is two straight quarters of basically a negative
GDP,
right?
Yeah.
And I bet we're in one now. Now, the hard part is we also lived 08. So we think recession is great recession. But there's so many recessions that have happened where it's not necessarily the values drop. It's actually not many of them values drop in. And I think what you're speaking to is I think we got so used to using, and I'm saying for myself, of using debt for your business. Like I've met with a few business owners and they're like, we don't do debt. Now, they didn't grow as fast. They're a 30-year plus bit. Like it's just a slow, sustainable growth, almost like a Dave Ramsey approach to it. But I think we got so used to, all right, we're going to borrow this capital to grow here and get here because we want this all done in 5 years. I fell victim to it. The money was cheap. It made sense. Like because you had the low rates because of a bad economy, but we were trending towards a better economy. And so you could take advantage of that. And I think what I hope it does is help people kind of restore some of those fundamentals. And the guys that were like, hey, I told you so. Like, yeah, you did tell me. That makes sense now, like, of why you have that. But the reality is, like, but you're 40 years in business. Like, you built that over 40, or your second generation, and you took it and did it. And I think that'll be an interesting to see how businesses, from a fiscal standpoint, kind of approach it. Because, I mean, if the market keeps getting worse, you'll see rates go down to try to help fluctuate that. In Europe, it's already happening. Like, and so I'm interested to see what it does kind of at a macro level, but really in our local economy, you're seeing builds down, but you still see some people building, right? You're seeing some new businesses. You're still seeing population growth. And so I'm interested to still see, I'm still pretty bullish on Spokane in that regard over a long term of what it looks like from that level.
Yeah.
But I also think that's very geographically limited, that's not the case everywhere. Whereas in Phoenix, they're arguing all the houses are on sale. Everybody came and bought so much. And I think it's just trying to figure out where we're at in the cycle is the confusing part.
Yeah, and I don't know that, I mean, you can kind of spin your head trying to figure all this out, but I also don't know that it really matters to a certain extent, or it only matters to a certain extent is probably a better way to say that. In other words, it's like, what's your position? Correct. Are you a person who's trying to buy a house? Are you a person who's trying to start a business? Are you a person who, like, based on whatever it is that is relevant in your life, this may or may not even bother you, right? Correct. And so I think I, in business and in real estate, have been affected by both the 08, 09 downturn and the recent kind of economic recession / downturn post-COVID. But it's important to me. It's important to my life. It's important to my livelihood. It's important to my family because everything is based for me on that, right? Or has some sort of relevance. I mean, if I'm like Joe the mechanic, or if I'm like Sally a school teacher, like I don't know that it's really affecting my life a whole lot. Like, are you following economic reports? Do you even know when the Fed meets or what the Fed talks about? Do you even know what GDP means, right? Like, so when you start diving down this rabbit hole, I think for us it's important, or for me, what I've realized is I grew as a professional, right? I went from being like a young entrepreneur to starting to have multitudes of businesses in different industries and borrowing money or leveraging things. And then you start to say like, oh man, like I need to pay attention to these markers, you know? And so things like the jobs report, things like inflation, things like interest rate, things like GDP and gross domestic product, things like tariffs, all of those kind of, they're really what they are is they're triggers that have an effect on the markets. But if you are a stockbroker or a real estate broker or something like it's a very direct effect, and it's a very so we tend to like talk a lot about it or kind of hypothesize a lot about it, like where are we going, what's going to happen. I think the average person is probably like, I don't know, like if it doesn't have something directly to do with your job, it's really, I think, more I would expect you to say like convenience, right?
Yeah.
Like this may affect the next time I go to sell or buy a house,
Correct.
or this may affect the next time I go or buy a car. But in the day to day, I'm not waking up tomorrow. It's not rocking my world. And I think for the world that we live in, like it literally could rock my world, right? If interest rates went up 1% tomorrow, like that would be a humongous deal.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's huge. Yeah. Because 2008, I was in school kind of through that. I was at WSU teaching. So I never really thought much about it. And then we were flipping houses. Everything was on sale. And so I got kind of the best of both worlds, a steady paycheck with low prices. Yeah. And built up a rental portfolio. But to your point, it's like it's only a loss when you go to sell it. And so for most people, I don't think that's the case, having to worry about that, to your point, day to day. It's just that it has some of those inflationary elements of the price of a home, price of school, the price of those. And that's where I think too often it still does have an effect, right?
Grocery,
we just don't
gas,
see it. You just don't
stuff, yeah.
you don't notice as much. It's like 1,000 cuts. And it's not a lot. All of a sudden, eggs went from $2 to $2.25. That's not much, but well, what about $2.50? What about $2.75? Then all of a sudden, you look back and you're like, wow, over 2 years, those things almost doubled in value.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the interesting one to see how that's dealt with, because you've already seen every headline says surge in refinances, right? And I'm like, man, over 75.75% really in an interest rate. Well, that either speaks to one of two things. One, people were so underwater or fighting to make that payment that's the delta they needed. Mm-hmm. Or that's just how our economy works and people need to move, relocate for whatever reason. There's just still so many people with 4% and under that I think it's an outlier in the market. Like each of these pieces, listen to a podcast that Ken McElroy went really good. One day it'd be fun to be on his show, and he was talking about like the apartment owners that bought in 22, 23. I mean, those are outliers.
Well, the commercial aspect's only a little bit different because of like the repricing, right? Yeah. Or the ARMs and stuff. You know, like there's a lot of those loans that I'm sure are going to be up for repricing if they're not already in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be an interesting dynamic when you have a commercial loan that maybe was locked for 5 years or 7 years, and like 2026 or 2027, it's just like, where's the rate at? Yeah. You know, and can I absorb going from 4.1% to 6.5% and have the investment still make sense? I think in the residential world, most people they're considering that on purchase, but those rates are locked, right?
Yeah,
30 years.
30-year fixed.
So it's not typically as big of a deal.
No, the hard part though, and what we're realizing on the apartments, but I think it's even on home too, is that we fix the debt, let's say, right? But the issue is those expenses aren't. So your property taxes are jumping 10 to 12%. Your home insurance, like I just saw they took away homeowners insurance for a large swath of people because of fire hazard, right? And I'm like, all of those numbers are jumping up. And so you're in this piece on the commercial side, my rent is basically capped, but those keep going up. And I think that's one piece. You can underwrite and you can put some of those kind of contingencies in there, but it's one that I think is affecting that commercial real estate play more than I had originally thought. Now, over 20 years, you'll look back and be like, yeah, and then all of a sudden rents had to catch up because that's the cost. But I think there's a lot of people stuck in that middle where it's like insurance went up 35% on me last year. Well, it doesn't seem like a lot, but like some of my policies are $100,000 a year.
Oh, so insurance is ludicrous
$35,000
right
more
now.
on it, and you're like, wait a second, what?
And I don't. That's. I mean, I have a big bone to pick with that, but it's also because I just feel like it's unnecessary, and I feel like it's literally gouging. I don't know when insurance companies I don't know when it became legal for insurance companies to like redline. Yeah. But like somehow I missed that memo. But in like real estate, we have fair housing laws, right? In truth in lending laws, like mortgage lenders don't get a red line. Like we don't get like, when did insurance companies just say like, I'm not insuring that property there? Or it's, it's like, something's going on here. But that's literally where we're at right now is the insurance company. And I know that they took some hits with the fires in California. I know the insurance company, but also they're like, well, we need to increase rates because of all of these claims. And it's like, but you had the money, you just spent it. Yeah. Like I have a problem with CEOs and corporate executives on private jets making $30 million a year. And then 4 years later, there's some fires in California. And like, well, we don't have the funds to cover all these losses. And it's like, you did. You did. You just spent it, right? Yeah. So it's just one of those things. It's like, You pay your kid $50 to mow your yard, and it's like your kid comes back to you and it's like, well, I'm gonna need $200 to mow the yard now. And it's like, why would you need $200 to mow the yard? And it's like, well, because that's the amount of money I need. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I should have to pay you the amount of money you need to mow my yard. I should pay you
based on the service.
Right, based on the service. And I just think insurance companies they're robbing the everyday common person right now. It's
well, ludicrous. And you have to have it, right? If you have a loan, you got to have it. And if you don't have a loan, you should have it just in case something happens. But I think that's my bigger fear as you look. Because one of my questions, you would be like, what does that next 5 years look like? I think it's super interesting because those costs aren't stopping. And education, all those pieces keep going up. So the affordability of life, not just housing, I think is going to be an interesting topic going forward. It's hard to bring the dial back to make life
it's death by I think, and what I'm feeling from a lot of people is death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Like that's kind of the analogy I'd go with. And I think everybody's just asking like, okay, when and where does this stop?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of that whole, it's coming from everywhere, but you can't put your thumb on like where it actually like is going to move the needle or hurt, but it's just all of it, Yeah. It's like, okay, eggs are up. Who cares? I don't eat that many eggs. Yeah. But then gas is up. And it's like, well, I don't drive that much. Yeah. And then it's like, but your insurance is up. And it's like, okay, that one kind of
hurts.
That one hurts a little bit. But then you go to buy your kids' school supplies, you go to like out to a meal, and all of a sudden you start realizing like it's coming from every angle. And there's this kind of like something's got to give. But I also feel like on the other side of that is that people have used it. Like the fact that everything is going up, I don't know that a lot of the things that are going up have needed to go up.
Correct.
I feel like everybody's just getting on the train.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part is you got some business owner out there who's like, I don't know, everything else is going up. I'm just going to raise my prices. And I'm like, did you take out a pencil and calculate it? Like if you were a landscaper and you have like a truck and some material, were you like, hey, these are where my prices are increasing, so I now need to start charging these rates? Or were they just kind of like, man, everybody's charging more, so I'm just I gotta bid these jobs higher, And it's like, well, instead of 8,000 for your landscaping service, it's gonna be 11.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, okay. And then you get away with it once or twice, but it's like, I don't know that your prices went up like 68%. Right?
No, definitely didn't, right?
And I think you kind of see that everywhere. You're starting to see that in all these different categories, and I'm like, why is a haircut $75? A haircut shouldn't be $75.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice haircut, though.
It might is. Like, I don't like now my haircut.
It's a pretty nice.
Hopefully she doesn't listen to this. She's like, what? No, it's just one of those things where you look. So I want to bring this conversation in a little bit, but I was asked recently by an old friend of mine if I would come and speak to her students at her high school on their career day. And she's like, hey, we're looking for somebody who's local, who's had some success to come talk, and yada, yada, yada. But I was just kind of mulling this over because it just happened yesterday. And I was like, I don't know, like, what am I going to talk to these kids about? So let me ask you this question, and that is, what advice would you give right now to a young adult about life as far as where they should be looking to kind of protect themselves or educate themselves or life advice for them in the next decade? I mean, I think that's really where my mind goes with those young kids, but then also a little bit of a conversation that we had off camera was my brother shared a video with me of a young adult asking those same questions. It was like a 19-year-old kid who shot a video online who was like, hey, I'm 19 and I don't know what's real anymore. Yeah. Like, I don't know where to get information. Yeah. I don't know what to believe. And kind of posing that question of like, if you were 19, like, how would you source information? How would you get, life advice that was tangible? And so I think both of those things have kind of been on my mind. And we can sit here and talk about markets and interest rates, but to me, I feel like that's really high level conversation to like the base level of this conversation to somebody who's just coming out of high school or college, or maybe you're even midlife, but you're just like questioning your future. What do you think you're contemplating right now?
Well, everything and nothing at the same time. So at that age, I didn't
very
know.
Good answer,
right? Because you're like, you don't know what to question because you don't know what exists. And so I think of it a lot. We had restaurants there for a while. Can't say I loved it. Can't say I hated it. But one of the things that always came up was something always went up. Cost of beef, cost of food, cost of labor. Mm-hmm. And all I remember was when we lived in Europe, I'm like, those things have survived world wars, costs of food going up, no food, service. I mean, they still exist. Restaurants still exist.
Yeah.
And I think when I look at it now, we're just at this pivotal age where there's so much information that it's debilitating. And so if I was advising on one, it would be try to find focus, whether that's in a career path, a business, or something, because there's so much noise that it would be easy to fall off track. Because so I had a meeting. I'm going to clarify that real quick. And the investor said, how do I get started and how do I do that? And I said, well, it's going to be fundamentally different than when I did it. The money was cheaper. Houses were cheaper. My margin for error was really high. It was historically low rates when we did it. Right. And he goes, well, does that mean I don't get started? I said, no, it just means you're going to do it differently.
Yeah.
So the project I'm doing now is a project at Kinixu where it's a buy it, build it, renovate it, sell it for as a condo development. Well, a multifamily up there wouldn't have worked. The margins are too thin. And so I think what I'd say is that too many people, I think, are giving up because college is too expensive. Life's too expensive. I can't go do this. But what I've found is that that every generation has been confronted with something like that.
Yeah.
And so there is a way. Go find the way or make the way through it. And I think the ones I've seen where it's looking at a problem, what advantage a 19-year-old has is they don't have Keith and Jordan's losses, messed up projects, winning projects, bias, history there. And I think it gives you this fresh perspective to look at it and approach, like I think I tap into 0.001% of the AI capabilities.
Yeah.
And I think a 19-year-old could dive in and help reshape what that looks like and move that needle further. And I think that if you can step back in these, instead of seeing those hurdles, see the opportunity, that's what I would try at 19. And you don't have to solve it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, because for me, when I boil down life advice and I think about my own kids or my nieces or nephews, or if I was really giving life advice, first of all, it's find 100% belief in yourself. Like, if you don't have that, then all of these other things don't matter. Like, you got to believe in yourself and you got to believe in your capabilities. Like, you don't have to have all the answers. I think talking to young kids or young professionals is like, listen, you don't got to know now what life looks like or even what you want to do. But you need to know that you're capable of handling whatever life throws at you, or that you're capable of figuring it out along the way. And I think that confidence comes from just like a self-belief, right? Like having a belief in oneself and like a fundamental like love of yourself and your abilities, I think is paramount. And then secondly, just like start looking for things that give you passion or motivation, right? Like what moves the needle for you? Like what gets your heart pumping? Like what gets you excited? And I think really that's like my two like kind of things I'm contemplating right now is just expressing to them, this is about, spend this time when you're in school learning the fundamental things that you need to learn, reading, writing, arithmetic, but most of that's happening in like grade school, right? Yeah. After that, you need to learn yourself.
Yep.
You need to learn other people, like communication and behavior. And then you just need to go and take that confidence and start to seek out things that excite you.
Yeah.
And it'll change along the way, right? Like, I don't know. I think if you'd asked me when I was like 15 what I wanted to be, I would have like literally looked you in the face and as serious as I could have said, I wanted to be like a professional athlete, right? And I outside of that thought, like I don't think I'd thought much further about it. It was like, it's like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know, but I don't know that it matters as much. I think you just have to be able to navigate that. But the other thing is, I think you have to be able to put your head down and kind of put those blinders on. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you. It's just there's so much noise and so much distraction, is that if that's what you focus on, then you will get lost in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those life lessons or skills of like, can you like block the noise out?
Yeah.
Can you focus on what's important and just put your heart and your soul into it and just kind of block the noise out? And I think that's probably a skill set.
Yeah, and it's probably earned over time. Because I was thinking back through mine, I'm like, came up with my crazy notion of, because we didn't grow up really understanding money. I thought it was just a plastic card that you swiped, but then kind of got taught the hard work piece. And hey, you go mow a yard, you get the $10. And so like for me, the journey really hasn't changed a ton of path. This last couple of years have been hard, But it's really was like, all right, 20 to 30, I'm going to learn this thing. From 30 to 40, I'm going to leverage everything to see if I can go learn even more. And then from 40 to 50, I'm going to make it all work.
Yeah.
Mature out. And so what I found with that kind of a guidance is it sucks in one way because it made everything available during that like 30 to 40 stretch. But in a good way, it was like it developed kind of some focus and curiosity around it. And I think too many times I'm seeing people don't get started because now you can read about everybody who missed. You can read about the failure. You can read about all the things that, and then get those highlighted to you on a very snapshot basis. I think the hard part is it's counteracted. Then you see everybody's social media that shows their life's great and it's all going good. And so it's this weird balance between the two of like, I wouldn't know what to do necessarily.
I would say the flip side is also true, man. I've seen a lot of social media where I'm like, it's not that someone's life is great. It's that like their life must be awful.
Yeah. I've seen that stuff too. Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh, they got to be in a rough patch right now, right? Read between the lines. I'm like, if you got the time to write that narrative today on your Facebook page, that had to take you an hour.
At least, yeah.
Like,
where'd you find the time?
Yeah, that was a trigger.
But I think the other big one for me is that I don't think we like to do hard things anymore. Right? So when I think of that, of like, go find yourself what you're motivated. Most people are going to, I want to be an influencer, social media, some piece there. But what I'm realizing is in any of those pursuits, there's going to be a hard. And then any non-pursuit, there's still a hard. It's the doubt. It's the regret. It's all those pieces. And I think it's Cody Sanchez that says it all the time, but it's like, just choose your hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. And anything worthwhile will be hard. But just keep going because on the other side, a hard is, I think, what we're all searching for is that achievement and that kind of piece to follow. And I think in the depths of it, it's really there. And I could easily see how you just be like, nope, I'm done. It's not worth it. Go get a job, settle back in. And I think too many times we stop at that point. But you forget the human body is amazing. We're so adaptable. We're so great. And so now it's surround yourself with the best people, choose your hard, and never give up. Yeah. Like if I was given 3 pieces of advice, that's it. And not in that order, but like those 3 where I'm like, that'll get you through anything. Because what I think about with our podcast, nobody's come on here and said something that I'm like, whoa, that is crazy. Who would have thought
Never
that?
thought of it that way.
No,
Right.
It's a story of perseverance.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. And the ones who win find the angle because they're no longer looking at a problem as a problem. Right? They know they can get through what's in front of them. So what they're doing is, okay, what's the best way?
Well, and you kind of stop worrying about the scoreboard, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole analogy of like playing the game for the love of the game, right? Like that's that whole, like you start talking to enough champions or athletes or winners and like it's irrelevant, right? It's like that's why Kobe Bryant's back in the gym the day after he wins or loses the NBA Finals because it's like it's irrelevant. I'm going to be in the gym at 4 a.m. tomorrow, regardless. You know, and it's kind of that commitment to the craft or commitment to the passion or whatever it is. And it doesn't really matter. It's the same reason when you watch these guys in press conferences after a Sunday football game, I always like watching the press. And these reporters are just kind of throwing, like skewering them, like how do you feel? And it's like, to a professional athlete who's playing at the top 1% of 1% of 1% of a level, it's like, yeah, I threw a bad pass. Just landed in the wrong guy's hands. I don't know what you want me to hear, but they don't get real excited a lot of times about it. And it's because of that. It is that tried and true kind of commitment to it's in the big picture. It doesn't matter, right? It's just one game. It's just one quarter. It's just 1 minute. It was just one down. I think is in the rest of us in life, we've lost a little bit of that, but I'll circle this back into saying, I think though, for me specifically, and I don't know what it is for today's 19-year-olds or 20-year-old kids, but I know when I was a kid, there was that mantra of like, go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, pay your dues, and save enough money or invest enough money to retire someday. And the irony of that as I've gotten older is that there was this kind of underlying messaging of like, work hard, be successful, make money so that someday you can stop working. And we all bought it. Yeah. But we didn't just buy it. I didn't buy it.
We invested in it.
We didn't question it.
No.
I wasn't like, I was just kind of like, okay, that's what you do.
Makes sense.
And I think when you make the end goal, the like having enough money or whatever to like not work anymore, then you start to put not working on this pedestal of like, well, that's something admirable. That's something to like strive for. That's something to like desires. Someday I should want to have to, but then the irony is when you talk to anybody who's truly happy, whether they work or not, you typically will find that happiness comes from purpose of some way, shape, or form. And that purpose is usually work. Yeah. So you might not meet someone who has a job, but you'll meet somebody who's really happy and they're like, well, I just donate my time to this charitable organization, or I volunteer at the soup kitchen, or you meet a successful business partner or whatever, but they're like, I love teaching. Yeah. And if I wasn't teaching, I wouldn't have this joy and happiness in my life. What I've been taught my whole life is like, become a teacher, save your pension, and then retire someday so you don't have to teach. And then I think they get there and it's like either A, you feel miserable about yourself because you're comparing yourself to other people because you haven't got there yet, not even knowing that getting there is not going to feel what you thought it felt like, or that it's even what you want. And then when you do get there, it's like how many people retire or take that pension and then within 2 years are like, man, I wish I would have just kept working for another 5 years. I really actually didn't mind teaching, or I really didn't mind.
I like seeing all the people when I showed up.
Right.
Like
And I think we've talked a little bit about that, but I think, with my personal journey, it's like, that's what I've just come to realize is like Keith's happiness comes from basically having purpose, or getting up every day and doing something that I can turn around and be like proud of or look at. And also I love to accomplish things, right? It's not about success, because I think success gets tied to like victory or winning. For me, it's more about like forward progress and accomplishment. Like I have to feel like I'm doing something, like I'm making a difference. Like it can be as simple as painting a wall in a bedroom. Yeah. It can be as simple as, mowing the yard, or it can be, hiring a new agent and getting them through their first transaction. But like, as long as I can kind of like have this sense of like my life matters or has purpose because I'm impacting things, I think that the money's irrelevant. And again, that gets said by so many people who've like made it.
Yeah, but nobody takes it seriously.
But the other people who are still trying to get financially stable or financially ahead are like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm going to enjoy the shit out of retirement. I don't ever want to work. And I think that there's just a paradox to it, right? The joy we get from the work we do is in direct opposition to if we do it well enough and we're rewarded well enough, we no longer have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that was mine. I wanted to retire early. Still don't know what that means. But then you realize, like, I'd last, I think, 7 days on a beach, 2 weeks on a golf trip.
I lasted like 90 days.
Yeah, you're
it didn't last long.
I saw it in your eyes. I mean, because fishing's fun, but not when you can do it every day. Like there's something about the escape.
Like the hobbies are hobbies. Golf, same thing. I've met a million guys who retire and start playing golf, and it's just one of those things where it's like all of those things in some way, shape, or form a lot of times are rewarding because they're an escape from the other thing, or a reward for doing well at the other thing. And we've taught ourselves to reward ourselves, or know. And I think that and this is where I would wrap a little bow on this with some of these kids or even our listeners, is like I wouldn't say heed this advice or go down this line of reasoning because I think I'm right or have the answers, but more so ask yourself what happiness is to you and what success looks like to you, and see if like you actually have a definition, or if you like really can put your thumb on what it is. Yeah. And I think that for me was like what it came back to. It was like when I was I took my little mini retirement. But when I decided, okay, like this isn't for me, like this isn't working, right? Yeah. I need something more. Then I had to really go like, okay, well then what is that thing that I need? Like, what is that? I don't want to, because I can just go get a job or jump back into working. But if I don't take this time to like figure out what the thing is, then it's time wasted. And so I think that's the thing I would, tell those kids is like, believe in yourself and then find the things that move you. And I think that's what I just kind of had to tap into, like interpersonally. I just had to start to pay attention to like, okay, this doesn't excite me. Yeah. I'm getting a little excited when I hear this or when I'm seeing this. Or it's weird because this thing used to really excite me and it's not exciting me anymore, right? And like just kind of paying attention to like where passion lives for you. And I think that's a moving target too. Yeah. And things that you're passionate and that you would chase like crazy when you're 25 are going to be way different when you're 55 or when you're 35 or when you have a family or when you don't have a family. Right. And so I think as life changes, that target moves. And then sometimes we have some like guilt or resignation around that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's wrong with me, right? Like, what's wrong with me? I used to love traveling. Now I don't want to leave my house. Like, what's going on? And I think it's just because life changes. You have to just figure out that nuance. But I think the underlying fundamentals, I love what you said, was find the good people, choose your hard, and then don't give up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because that's what I learned through it. It's not, I didn't miss technical pieces. Like I think the issue is how do you have that honest discussion with yourself sooner of what makes you happy, what drives you. Because I think for so long I was just driven by, why was I an attorney? I don't know. My dad probably told me I made a lot of money, right? So I picked attorney.
Right.
I didn't even know what the job was outside of Tom Cruise grilling a guy on Jack Nicholson on the stand, right? And
What movie was that, dude?
You can't handle the truth. Few Good Men.
Few Good Men, yes.
And so I went down this path finally of looking back of like how many decisions were made because I wanted to do them. And I know there's some things, right? I think the issue is then we move to this like, well, I'm only going to do it from there. Like there's still some things you got to do to get to where you want to go. But I think that when you can have that honest discussion of like what truly drives, I think this podcast is fun for me. I love it. Like it's the most, I have no expectation on it. It's just fun to sit and chat and like learn from people. And it's funny, we break that all down. It's not going to be the next house. It's definitely not the next apartment building. It's definitely not a plane. It's definitely not any of those. It's relationships. And I think that that's what I found kind of going through all the different stages of it is that's something I enjoy and want to preserve and want to make whole, right? And I think it's going to be a very interesting time. But then I look back and like there's some people that went through World War I, II, and Vietnam, and the Great Depression. That would have been a really hard time too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think too often we use that as an excuse. Oh no, it's just different now. Yeah, it's different now. They got to find a different way to win. It may not be the same way.
Hard, but it's not. I don't think. I guess again, messaging to that 19-year-old would be: don't fool yourself into thinking your hard is much harder than previous generations had. Right? It's different.
Yeah, but and yours may not be owning a home, right?
Right.
That may not actually be a thing. It may be you're renting and you build a business.
Yeah.
It may be you're renting and you minimize your costs so that you can live cheaper. It may be we get back into gardens and farming more. Like every single obstacle creates an opportunity. Doesn't mean it's a good opportunity. Doesn't mean it's like getting to be the thing you thought it was. But I think on the other side of it, like I look at what I've done now after going through is selling the house, kind of consolidating paint, getting caught up on this stuff. And it's like, God, I know who I am more. I realize I don't really need nice, flashy things. I do like being downtown. I like being involved. I like helping the community. Like it just reaffirms some. And then I got rid of a bunch of these other notions that I'm like, wait, why did I even do that? Oh, because that was what success would look like. And I think for the first time in my life is like, I know what success is.
Yeah.
And it's not an objective standard. It's like, I know now when I'm going to be successful. And maybe it's not today I look like a failure here, but if I keep on the path I'm doing, I know in 3 years I'll be there. And I think before I just took so many cues from what success was supposed to be and just kept driving at this unattainable object of quote unquote success. And I think it's super hard because I know some of my good friends, they're the best teachers. There's a good country song about it, right? They're the superstars. They're really awesome. Downside society looks at me developing a building different than a school teacher. And I think that if you keep letting that be the gauge for success, and I definitely did as a young kid, that's for sure. I don't think you ever get there.
Yeah, there's an old saying, and I can't remember it specifically where it came from, but it was like, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
And I think it's just one of those things where it's definitely young and a little naive, but we also, when I look at, I loved the podcast we did a couple weeks ago with Bryn.
Yeah.
With Slate, and I asked her in the podcast if she had any regrets, and she kind of laughed, and she's like, "Yes, I have lots of them." But like, but what's interesting is A, great on her for so candidly admitting that. B, for me, that's one of my fears, right? Like one of my tickers is to go to my grave or to be sitting in an old folks home someday, just filled with like regrets, right? And what I've realized about that is that. Regrets for me come from, or maybe a lot of people come from either chasing the wrong things. Like when I look back, I'm like, man, I wish I wouldn't have pursued that so much or put that on such a pedestal because it really wasn't that important. But at the moment or in the time, I thought it was. So it's like, I will tend to regret or look back regretfully, maybe, or hesitantly on things that I chased that weren't the right things.
Yeah.
Or on not doing the things that I should have done or wanted to do. Like not taking that trip I should have taken, or not getting involved in that business venture I was invited to, but at the time was like, like, so it's all like kind of the things. It's like, man, when I didn't chase something that really in my gut mattered to me, or when I chased something that really I knew was incongruent with who I was or what I wanted, those are like the two areas where I typically will see regret kind of start to like rear its little head. It's like, or when I get that feeling like, Keith, you're going to regret not doing this. Or, you know what, you're probably going to regret doing this.
You've never seen both sides. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because you mentioned like how you wanted to become an attorney, or, why you chase that. And it's like, I thought they made a lot of money, or someone told me to. And I think that's the truth as well. It's like we a lot of times we don't realize it. And this is what I would tell young people or anybody even middle-aged reconsidering is, but we don't realize a lot of times that what we consider our values, or a lot of times the things that we value are not our values. They're things that we've been told to value.
Correct.
Or they're things that we think we should value, or that society has told us we should value. But I would say that's a good place to start too, is like having an honest kind of gut check with yourself of like, what is it that I value? Yeah. Not that I've been told to value. What is it that I want? What is it that I value? What is it that gets me excited? Not because somebody told me that's the responsible thing to do, or that's the best financial decision to make. It's kind of like, and that to me is kind of what turning the corner into your conversation is what I've realized as I've gotten older, is just being able to be more true to myself in those capacities, where it's like, yeah, dude, Ferraris are cool cars, and I would love to drive a Ferrari. And I don't care if I have a Ferrari, but I can go rent one and rip the wheels off of it for a weekend and then give it back. But like, the things when you were a kid was just like, I can remember having a picture of like those fancy cars on my door or aspiring to them. And you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think you just appreciate life more. And I think it comes back to just being present. But I think about somebody, if you're listening this far, you're obviously are in a similar spot. But when you look at it, it's like a lot of people don't like their job because that's not, they're stuck. And that's what they'll say, stuck in a job. And I'm like, but what if success was just that in the morning you were there when your kid went to school, you were there when they got back, you made it to every game? What if that was success to you?
Yeah.
And the job is, then you would show up to that job way different. Hey, this job provides me the opportunity to be successful.
Well, and again,
it's just this weird definition of success that was forced on us where it's...
Well, it's also a societal concept.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, somebody said, hey, go out and chase your dreams and do what you love. Yeah. And, if you can't wake up every day and do what you love, like, go find that. And it's like, I get it, but I'm also like, but who? It's very idealistic, number one. And number two is, so then who's going to pick up garbage?
Yeah.
Right? Like, who's going to work in a factory, or who's going to, and it's just like, well, again, I would imagine my grandfather who's passed away, but I can imagine him looking me right in the face, saying, Grandpa, I'm not real fulfilled in my job, or whatever. And
he'd
literally be like, who said it was supposed to be fun?
Yeah.
It's called work.
Food. Yeah.
Fun is what all those things you're talking about is what you can do outside of it, or, take care of your family, do your responsibilities, make ends meet. And then, if you want to go have some fun or write a book or travel, whatever, figure it out. But I don't think that their concept of like, everybody's supposed to get up every day with a huge smile on their face and go do this job that's just like super fulfilling. And it's like,
it's not possible.
Yeah. Well, if it is, great. But I think it's an outlier, or I think it's probably somebody social media story.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
But I don't know too many people. I don't know if I know anybody.
Yeah. And maybe it's not happy. I think maybe happiness is a tough word for me. I think it's more fulfilled. Like I would
those
almost
things go hand in hand for you?
I don't think they do. Because I think happiness is...
It's hard to be happy if you're not fulfilled, though.
Yeah, but I feel like happiness, it feels like an external assessment of how I'm feeling. I'm going to use that word specifically. Yeah. Whereas fulfilled allows you to look at every situation differently. Like, would you say this podcast is a success?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. For me,
But that's different. Versus like... Brennan probably counts up our 12 listeners and is like, wow, you guys are bottom 1,000.
Can't believe they keep coming in here.
Thanks, Mom, for listening 4 times. Yeah. But it's like, I think that that's one of the bigger issues with it. And so I've started looking at it more of like that fulfilling piece, and where my regrets come is now around relationships, like things like that I couldn't have. But like, think of how you approach the day if every day you started off winning. Like
how would you approach your day?
Well, like then everything, it becomes an opportunity. Every like when somebody's mad now, I'm like, well, I just sit and listen, because there's usually more going on in life. Like, and as I've gone through it, I'm realizing, man, what if we could all just live fulfilled lives?
Yeah, it's again, I think it's hard to be happy or it's hard to be fulfilled if you're not happy. But at the same time, chasing.
But I think the happiness is because you aren't fulfilled. Like it's because you're not doing what you want. Because like there's gonna be hard in fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that's gonna be every day is gonna be a day I want to go. Even now I don't. There's some days I don't want to get out of bed. I know I don't. But then you're like, you kind of force it because you're like, no, I need to get through this, because that's what I'm working through of this like pressure is a privilege element of like the ability to go make these changes. Like I'm fulfilled because I get these opportunities, and I think that it's not that you're optimistic, like too overly positive. It's just it's how you face the day when you have a kind of that look or that vision on it. Then you kind of sit in the moments more. You sit in there, you're not looking around the next corner. But I think where I was the kind of the lowest of the points was when it was one, felt like I wasn't a success because I based it on, well, succeeding, right? Getting the deals done, selling more real estate. But I remember selling over $100 million in 1 year of real estate in volume. And then I was like, well, I guess I got to get 125. And I'm like, oh my God, this never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops. And I think so then when it hit a point of like, okay, I'm enough as it is. So whatever I do today is going to be just more. And I think that it was just such an interesting spot, because too many times you could dive in, and I love success. I'm uber competitive. Like I think that's what makes it even harder. Like I do want to do 125, but I think the 19-year-old version of me was doing it to get the 125. And now I'm doing it because I know I can. Like I know if that fulfilled me, it doesn't right now, but like if that did, that's why it would drive me. And I think as you get older, you kind of find these different drivers to it.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there a little bit with the sense of maybe the problem or part of the problem is that these words that we use, whether albeit fulfillment or happiness, like semantically and societally have come to mean different things, right? Like by definition, what is fulfillment or what is happiness versus what we've been taught to believe what happiness is through marketing and through advertisers, and like, this is happiness. Happiness is a life on the beach with a Corona and crystal blue water. And like, they've kind of painted or tried to manipulate that picture of what happiness is, or fulfillment is like the big house and the fat, and it's like, well, that's not really traditionally what fulfillment was. No. That's not really what happiness is. But then that becomes people's versions. And then they feel like they'll say, well, man, I'm just not really happy, or I just don't really feel fulfilled. And it's like, well, maybe change the way you're looking at those things, for one. And then two, I think you hit the nail on the head with regard to success. One of the ahas I've had lately is that success or successful people, if I look around, are not the people that can perform when all of the stars are aligned and everything is perfect. It's the people that can perform every day, day in and day out, and kind of like play hurt, or play when the weather's bad, or when things aren't going their way. And that for me is really that's been a skill set I've had to learn. That's been something I've had to hone in, is like, I know to be effective this week, or to be, to get the things done that I need to get done, I cannot be waylaid, or I cannot be set back every time something else doesn't go right. Yeah. So I might have 5 projects I'm working on, and all of a sudden one of them takes a bad turn, or 2 of them take a bad turn. And there was a time and a place where like all of a sudden that would thwart my efforts on the other 3. Like I would literally like be almost incapable of moving the ball forward on these other 3 projects, just because I was down in the dumps or depressed or upset about these other 2. And that was kind of like, it was a shift in my mindset, but also in my performance one day, when you're kind of like, man, if you want to win, if you want to be successful, if you want to be able to achieve great things, you got to be able to do it in the face of adversity. You've got to be able to do it when like the deck is stacked against you. You got to be able to do it when like it's hard. And I think that for me is like the concept of buddy of mine, Dustin Runyon, has a concept of it. He calls it winners play hurt. And I've always loved that. But he's like, you'll never meet a winner who doesn't play hurt. right? Like you're going to have to basically almost carry them out on a stretcher, or something's going to have to be majorly wrong with them, because they just know it's part of it. Yeah. It's just part of the process. And if you're committed to your craft, you're committed to doing whatever you're doing, then you're going to play hurt. You're going to play sick. You're going to play with a head cold, and it's just because that's that kind of champion mentality. And I think the flip side of that coin is, I've heard Dustin talk about, he calls them like Peter Pan adults. Mm-hmm. So it's like winners play hurt. But then also, like, we have like the kind of this societal pandemic of like Peter Pan adults. And like, when you look at Peter Pan, like, well, what is Peter Pan? Peter Pan is the eternal, he wants to live in Neverland eternally as a little boy, right? And all he wants to do is play swords and play pirates, and he wants to stay there. And it's like, well, that's what children do, right? Like, children have the luxury, and quite frankly should as children, of doing what they desire to do, doing what they want to do, doing what makes them feel good. But when you become an adult, like that ship sails. Yeah. Right? Like, adults don't get, if you want to be an adult, like, adults don't get to do what they want to do all the time. I don't get to do what makes me feel good. I don't get to do what I desire to do. I do what is necessary. Yeah. I do what needs to be done. And if I can do what's necessary and I do what needs to be done, well, then hopefully it leads to me also being able to do the things I want, or the things that I desire. But you can't lead with that. And I think that we have lost some of that. We've forgotten some of that. And we have kind of brought up a generation of people who think that, yes, you should be able to love your job and love your work, or you should be able to like do the things that you want, when you want, the way that you want. And kind of, if you can or don't, or not capable of putting all those pieces together, you've created an unrealistic expectation of what an adult life and reality are for them. And I think that really, to me, is my messaging is like, don't buy into the false belief or the false image of what this is supposed to look like, because it's so unintuitive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think even being a more full circle, because I know a lot of the people that listen have their own business and stuff, and I think the reason this is such an important topic is a lot of times any good business is setting goals, objectives, something out there in the future that they're trying to achieve, but too many times it's built off what would a business, I know we do this with a brewery, like, I want to know what payroll percentages are for other breweries. I want to know what objectives are for other breweries. And I think too many times we set these goals. Like, I remember when we had the brokerage or even management, and I'm like, I want 10,000 units to manage, right? And so we go towards it. We make decisions towards it. We go towards it. And as we hit 5,500, and I'm like, I don't want 10,000 units. This is not what I want. This is not where I want to head. And I think it's one of those pieces that I think if people can pause for a minute and truly see what they want there, that having the number one HVAC company in Spokane, maybe that isn't your actual goal.
Yeah. Well, and I think
that's the balance. Whereas the competitive side of me is like, no, the reason I want 10,000 because I knew that would have put us just ahead of the number one.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second, but my life doesn't get any better. Maybe I can help more. I don't know. Maybe there's
but
I
employ
more
that,
people.
And this is what I would tell people, is mapping that process out is, that's what I call setting arbitrary goals, right? Or unfocused goals. And
correct.
But I also don't want people to feel bad about that. So if you are a young HVAC professional and you're like, I don't know where I want to take my company, but I want to be the best one in Seattle, or I want to be the biggest one around, or whatever, that's fine. Yeah. But then don't stick to that. Yeah. Like, right? If it's not really what you want, or you find out as you go along the way that it's not really what you want, don't stray from it because it's hard. Yeah. But also don't be afraid to shift and admit to yourself that, like, hey man, I kind of set this arbitrary goal of like selling 125 million because I sold 100 million. But now I'm sitting here doing it again. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't want that. So it's okay to shift and to pivot. But see, I think that's also the beauty of, like, that's how you learn.
Correct.
Yeah. We learn from that process. So set big, hairy, audacious goals.
Correct.
Chase them with passion and with conviction. Do the hard things and pivot and shift along the way. Yeah. If you realize that you're chasing something that's not of importance to you, or doesn't move the needle, right? Yeah. And I think that's the life lessons wrapped in a little bow there. It took me 40 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't even know if I fully have it figured out, except for I'm like, I feel like now when I'm making these smaller steps, I'm happier, and they're little pieces along the way that before just got overlooked on the path to that success. And I think it's just being an entrepreneur is awesome. I think you can find it in your job. I think you can find it in family. You can find it in everything you do. But it's just kind of, I think all the way back to what you said initially, it's just finding that in yourself. Like, and really being true to that, despite what everything else around is telling you. It's the best thing I learned from the article that came out. I try not to read all the comments, probably should, but it was one of those pieces where I'm like, yeah, if my success was tied to how Brick West turned out, devastating. Like, devastating. I don't know another way to put it. Like, I'd be devastated. But in my head, it's like, no, I have this bigger plan of how these will get there. This is just a bump along the way. And I think the sooner you can get behind that, then you don't have all these external factors that are shifting you every single day on and off your path. And it's been, to me, probably one of the biggest parts of the journey is going through that and having hard conversations that I probably would have avoided before, really being introspective. And I think every entrepreneur, you're not going to get this chance all the time. I think it's been a down few markets. It's going to be cyclical. You'll have an up market. And I think the things you can learn in a down market, fix, make constant and consistent, like, you're going to win even more when it gets better versus, hey, we're just battening the hatches and sinking back. It's like, what can we be learning right now that'll make us more prepared when it does better or if it doesn't? But like, I think that's what we've started to do across every business is, well, one of them is I need more experts in what we're doing. So it's bringing on different partners or different elements in there. We need more, whatever it is, right, around any capacity. Well, we're doing those now. Well, when the market gets better, those will already be in place. And now they're part of what we're doing. And I think taking this opportunity of what I'd call a failure, downside, whatever that was, to learn, I think that's been one of the most beneficial parts we've done so far. But if I would have just taken it as a hit to my ego and a hit to everything that it just didn't work, well, it would be leaving people out there versus working harder to make it right and go back. So it really was one of the biggest changes. But I could see on the other side of that, if I wouldn't have that and it's still that objective success piece, it would have been really hard to handle it all.
Yeah.
It's not there, right? Yeah.
Well,
visibly not there.
And you can't, if you tie your identity to business success or money, I think ultimately that's just it's a slippery slope into unhappiness really quickly. And yet I say that and have done it. Yeah. Right.
No, I'm saying I did that. That was the issue. And then it was like, when it's great, it's awesome. And then all of a sudden,
which gives you an overinflated sense of
correct.
self-worth or confidence. Yeah. And yet when it's bad, it can also be extremely detrimental. When it doesn't, it's just like, well, you just threw an interception, right? Yeah. Like the guy just landed in the wrong guy's hands, you know? And I think there's a lot of emotional maturity and a lot of growth has to happen in life to kind of be comfortable in your own skin, right? To not just say, hey, I'm not going to let society or my parents or other people tell me what success looks like or happiness is. I'm going to kind of truly do the work to decide on my own. And then also, that doesn't negate the fact that you still have to deal with those people and that messaging. And the analogy I make here, but one of the things I always chuckle about is one of the reasons I hate not getting anything when I go like hunting or fishing. Like if I go backcountry elk hunting in the woods of like, Utah for 10 days and you don't shoot an elk, isn't because I don't shoot it. Like I literally, as a person, I'm like, this is part of the process. And what I love is being in the mountains and being with like friends or having that time in nature. But the reason is like, I don't want to answer that damn question like 400 times when I get back. But it's always the weirdest question because people will be like, hey, did you get an elk? And I'll be like, nah. And they'll be like, you didn't? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Have you ever chased an elk through the mountains with a bow and arrow?
Good luck, man.
But on top of it is, if you did get one every time, then I wouldn't even like doing it.
No.
Right? Like it wouldn't even be like a hobby or passion in my
hunt,
right. So it's the expectation actually is the opposite, right? Like I would say, I don't know what the stats are, but if you read like the fish and game regs, it's like, 85 or 90% of all tags go unpunched, right? In an annual year. Like all the people that buy a deer tag or an elk tag, it's like 90% of them never, either they don't go hunting or they only hunt one day or they just don't punch one. But it's like, but that's kind of like, the journey is a lot of failure. And that's what makes the glory so great when you do. But I do think, again, it's that you let those thoughts creep in. You let those thoughts of man, I need to be
Correct.
like, I need to be successful. I need to, show other people that like I can do this or that this, and really it's like, well, what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of have to get recentered to go back to. And so I think it's the same thing with people, whether it's your career or job. It's just like, you need to really take the time, I think, to think this out for yourself, but also that helps you get comfortable in your own skin. And also, put a little bit of like, I call it like, like alligator skin, but put a little bit of like alligator skin on in the sense from the criticism, from the outside voices, from all of the external, because otherwise you're just getting pushed around like a pawn, in this game. And I think that's really, really hard, especially for young adults.
And I think it's hard for all adults. And then they just kind of either retreat from it, you embrace it, you listen to it. And I think it'll be a kind of what I think one of the more interesting parts coming up, because I think there will be a pivotal change because something's got to change, right? Cost build's got to go down. Something's got to go down because it's just not rising fast enough. Like it's just a weird spot we're sitting in. Not that it can't be solved, but I think a lot of people are going to have to think on their feet more, maybe reposition, repivot. And I think the more confident you are with where you're at with it, it just makes that decision a lot easier versus the panic that can ensue from not having it. And so it'll be interesting. I'm kind of like excited in a lot of ways about what can come, like with all the stuff learned and how to make it better going forward. And I think kind of taking that approach to it now, I kind of look for all those opportunities. So we're integrating a ton of AI. We're doing a bunch of those kind of things that are now hopefully positioning us better for what that next piece looks like. But I think I've just learned to take any obstacle and still see the opportunity or how to figure out a way through it. So.
Yeah, it's gotten me a little bit more excited, to be honest, just because it's learning again, right? It's going back to, I'm like, oh, I remember this. It's been a while since I feel like I was like really learning at a massive rate. Yeah. Like probably more like in school or something, or when you first get in a career field. But in the last year, it's like, it's been going back to that, just like consuming massive amounts of knowledge and information and trying to learn. And I think the thought that keeps coming to my mind is, the answer is never no. The question is always how. Yeah. And that's kind of the mantra that I look at this stuff with, is like, it's like not developing is not an option, right? Or not working is not an option. The question isn't, how do I do it now so that I can be successful or make a positive impact, to keep going. And so it's that how question, though, is where the daunting process comes in, of like, you really got to start stepping back and analyzing from different angles of like, how does this work now, or what's not going to work that I'm used to. And I think that can also feel very defeating for people. Like, man, I got to retool again. I got to start over. I got to.
And I think in a lot of ways too, we don't give ourselves enough credit. I think if I was giving any advice too, it's like, just give yourself so much grace. Like, the world is a lot like Karate Kid, right? Karate, actually, after blues. But it's that we're washing the car all the time, and we're learning something every time we do it. And I was thinking through like what I'm going through now, and I had an agent come up to me yesterday and say, hey, there's this multifamily building here. Like, can we even develop it? So I take a look at it. I already find out quickly it's zone residential high density, which means 70, which means you can go up 70 feet. Setbacks are 15 feet. There's no parking requirement. The development cost on that's going to be $212 a foot. You're going to be able to fit 42 units on it. Like, you have great views, and the rent's probably going to be somewhere in that $225 a foot range. Well, that didn't just come from something. Like, that's what the gain is. And I think there's this really good book called The Gap and the Gain. The basic premise of it is that too often we look at the gap between where we're at now and where we want to be, instead of the gain of where we're at now and where we came from. And I think too many times we give up on everything and just throw in the towel. And I'm like, no, if I would have just thrown the towel, like, there are so many parts I know, from how to entitle land, how to who to call, what to do. And I think everyone is doing that every day. You're learning, I touched the stove, it's hot. Okay, what'd you take from it? Probably nothing. Except for in 2 years, you're going to go to try to touch a stove and you're going to remember it's hot. And I think if you can kind of have that, what you're speaking to, which is this curiosity, this learning curiosity to continue to evolve and improve every day. And so that's kind of the question. I don't know if somebody told me, maybe you did, instead of asking Logan how her day was. I was always asking her, what's one thing you learned today?
Yeah. Or
because you train
today,
your brain to be like, I know I learned something today. Like, there's no way somebody goes through a whole day and doesn't learn something. Now, it could be you like mocha over a latte. It could be you like black coffee instead of adding sugar. Or, hey, don't take this route, take this route.
Yeah.
But there is something you are learning every day. And I think that's what gets me excited a lot about life is there is always something to learn. So retirement to me is never a thing. I may not be developing forever, but there's going to be something you're going to be learning and going through. And I think that's what usually gets me pretty excited about it. And I think most people have more resources than they ever knew they were capable of. They just got to tap into them and realize that that's what you were learning the whole time. So if you're in that job you hate, what can you learn from that job that helps you get to the next piece? So like what I would have done better at WSU, knowing I wanted to grow a bigger company, was I would have learned how they ran their systems.
Yeah.
What was their payroll system? What was their hiring process? What were all those pieces? Instead, I kind of floated through and did my thing instead of being like, no, I know I want one of these one day. Maybe not as big as it, obviously WSU is huge, but there are systems they have that are either clunky and don't work or are really good because they've done them for 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so like part of me is like, man, I wish I would have went back and worked for
well,
like
maybe not
Inland
200
Group.
years, but yes.
As long as they've been, weren't they 18? Oh yeah, not 200.
You would know. I don't know.
It's like, but it's like 1860.
Is it?
So it's not
seems, I can't imagine what the Palouse looked
Don't
like.
quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. But it was, but they were planning Palouse or Pullman was supposed to be the capital. So it lays out a lot like Olympia does. It's a grid system. So that's why, and Spokane also is a grid system. But anyways, longer story. And so Spokane was supposed to be Pullman. Anyways, longer part to that. But I think that's where I'm like, man, I just missed those opportunities. I look at college, my MBA specifically, and I was so busy. I just wanted to get out of there and get an A. So I'd go study. Well, the 15 people in my class are now all running companies in Spokane. I should have forgot all about the grades and been like, hey, do you want to chat today? Let's grab a beer after this. Like, there's just so many things that you just forget where you're put in situations for a reason. And there's ways to, if you're receptive, to learn from them. It's just crazy when I go back and look at all the things that would have been better ways to kind of attack. Because somebody says, is college worth it? Depends on how you use it.
For sure.
Right? I could make 5 connections at college that paid for all of college. I probably have actually, honestly, I probably have made 5 connections that would have made me more money than what I paid for college, from college, right? And I think, so it's just how you look at it. And I think that's...
It's an institution. It's also a place to be. I think you could make the argument that you could make 5 connections, not go to college in 4 years.
Yeah, sure.
and not need college.
Have to make up the difference.
Right? So, and I say that as a college graduate, but I also don't use my degree. I think I very well may have been one of those people that would have been better off without college. But I think that the messaging and what I hear from you, and it's reminding me of today, is the world seems to be in a little bit of a spot where like the economy is not great right now. People are a little bit glum. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. There's a lot of social media and bad things happening. And then that can all be a downward spiral into just that's the lens of the world, right? It's gray and it's dark and I'm lost and I'm depressed or I don't know what to do or I don't feel good about what I'm doing. And what I would say is just to like interrupt that pattern is like you just have to stop and you have to interrupt that pattern. You have to just go, okay, what is good? What can I focus on? What drives me? What moves the needle? And I know that's easy to say, but I think the messaging though would be to do the hard work to figure out what those things are that move you so that you can find purpose. And if you can do that, if you do that work to find purpose or your why or whatever, then the beauty of having it isn't the thing. The beauty of having it is that it pulls you through all of this other shit. Like it pulls you through all the darkness. It pulls you through all the ups and downs. Because people who are driven, people who have purpose, whether it is I want to be a singer-songwriter or I want to be the best 3rd grade teacher or I want to be a developer or I want to be a professional, like it doesn't matter what the thing is. When somebody's driven and has purpose, they don't give a shit if it's raining outside. No. They don't care if this person gets elected or this person gets elected. They don't care if, traffic is bad today or traffic is like, sure, they become minor inconveniences along the way, along the journey of like, I have purpose, I have drive, I have this thing I am chasing, and I'm going to be the best neurosurgeon in the world, or I'm going to cure cancer. And it's like when you see people who have these big whys, and they don't have to be huge like that all the rest of it becomes noise. And it doesn't affect you as much. Yeah. And I think the one thing I notice the most is like when I do start to get affected by a lot of that stuff, I realize it's because like I'm off I'm off purpose. I'm off target.
Exactly.
I've drifted.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, Keith, you got to get back on track.
Yeah.
You can't dwell in this like gray. And I think that's my biggest messaging is like complex or simple, big or small. Find what moves the needle for you. Find what inspires you. Find what like something that you can get behind that will just become the thing that's bigger than all of the other things.
Yeah, and I think the more you listen to the podcast, you're going to hear that from most of the people that come on here. Everyone's going to talk about the problem because there are real problems, but it's if you can position yourself. So my simple quick hitter one, if you're ever thinking of it, is get the body moving, but like go on a walk. Mm-hmm. Mine starts at usually 6 a.m. because I know I get flooded with calls by 7:30. And so for me, it's that one time in the day to be like, picture what the day looks like, to picture what tomorrow looks like, to think through all those pieces. And then I come back into my day where it's like I'm grateful I'm there. Get to see my daughter wake up and send her off to school. And all of a sudden now it's like, well, what was the big thing? But
they say that the quickest way to change your mental state is to change your physical state.
Yep.
And to change your physical state in a quick and drastic format, like it can be anything, but I think movement is huge. And so is temperature. So that was one of the reasons I started doing ice baths.
Cold plunge, yeah.
Yeah, and especially in the mornings. Yeah. Like if you want to like just like, I don't care, you could wake up in a funk, get in like sub 40 degree water for 5 minutes.
That'll do it.
That's the only thing you think about for those 5 minutes. But.
So good.
Well, Jordan, thank you as usual.
Yeah.
If you guys are getting anything out of this and you have not already liked or subscribed, please do. It is free to subscribe, by the way. Thank you, Alicia Newman, for reminding me of that.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys at the next show. All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.